Well, it's definitely raining, but it's not too bad. I put a toque on this camera. Filming in the shop right now kind of drives me nuts. I got those big old expensive light bulbs with the valves on to make a hum. It's a pain in the butt. And there's the echo too. It's not that best. Not the best. But gotta mix it up too, right? Finally, there's a fish right there. Try and get you guys to see this thing. It's right there at the top. It's just hanging there. I was going to bring my underwater camera too. Right on the top. I don't know what that white thing is in the bottom. Cool. Right now I got a fish tormenting me right beside me. It's coming, fishing's coming. Got my barn wall done today, got my barn door done today. Now, time to get more of this done before I go. And once I get back, I gotta fill up the truck with all the hunting stuff and this thing, get ready to go in the morning. Now, what do we got? No subject, no problem. Hi Steve, just a short tale to relate here. Background on me, live in the Pacific Northwest these days. Former construction worker. Turned trauma/neurotrauma ICU nurse since 2008. I was 43 years old at the time of this occurrence. 53 now. Used to spend lots of time outdoors fishing, hiking, camping, and later in life bow hunting as well. Though less so these days since COVID did a number on my heart and my stamina last year. Recovery is slow, but hope to get back to outdoors soon. To the story. It was mid-April 2011. Prior to beginning a new life of freedom as a traveling ICU RN, I just quit my job and was taking a much-needed solo road trip to camp and fish my way from Pensacola, Florida, to Alaska. Read this. Damn, that was a good one too. Read it, sorry. Keep going. Find another one. Hello Steve, been debating if I wanted to share my experience with you. It's taken me a couple weeks to decide if I'm overacting or just baffled at what happened. I never saw anything, but got the uneasy sense and the possibility of a telepathic warning. A little backstory on me. I came from very humble beginnings growing up in rural Texas, and I spent most of my youth in the outdoors, especially before wild hogs became an issue. When I was a kid, the only real predator of my area of Texas was bobcats and coyotes. Every once in a while a stray lion, but we only ever saw tracks. So most of my trips was just with the .22 long rifle shooting squirrels and such. We didn't have an issue with pigs until I was in my late teens. Then I would carry a shotgun at a minimum because those things are unpredictable. Texas grizzly bears as we call them. I never traveled much outside the state until I was in my 20s, and most of that was for oil field work offshore. But I've been an avid outdoorsman my entire life. It seems to be the only place I've ever been at ease or able to find solace. Same. I've also been around livestock my entire life and know what the smells are. Especially during the rodeo days of high school and working ranches in central Texas. I was finally able to travel a couple of weeks ago to New Mexico and took my 7-year-old son with me. He was too young to notice it, but I know how to pay attention to things in the woods and trust my instincts when something doesn't feel right. So we were fly fishing the Rio Castilla Park for the first experience, and I was fishing with the wind in my face, being the first time in bear country for me, when a smell hit me that I've never smelled before. First time there were cows in the area, so I wrote it off as that to make me calm down a little, but I knew deep down it was not. It smelled way too strong for that. Cow shit isn't that strong, even fresh isn't that potent, and it smelled like it was mixed with horse shit and the way big nasty wild boars smell all in one. I tried to stay in the area because my son was having fun, but eventually I told him there weren't any fish here, so we drove back upriver and it never happened again. The next day we only drove a couple of miles outside of Red River just to get away from other folks for a bit. The first stop we made the river was off the road about 500 yards. We decided to walk it. Then we hit a small rock slide we had to go down to get to the river. My son loved sliding down that, so we fished our way back up the river about half a mile until we came to a spot where the banks tapered down to a more level area that was fairly wooded, enough you couldn't see through. I was fishing a little gravel bar when the smell hit me again. This time there are no cows in that area, and I know for a fact, it was sheep. Goats don't smell that bad. So I walked upriver to the next bend anyway, where the woods were more dense, and tried to be calm. My son was behind me about 20 yards playing in the gravel bar. Then all of a sudden I got this low growl in head, and it vibrated ears and inside my head. I tried to shrug it off as the wind, but no matter how I turned my head, I could hear it. It clearly was a warning of some sort, but it didn't feel like I could hear it. It's almost like it was telepathic growl. Well, it didn't have to tell me twice. I know what a warning is. So I walked to my son and calmly told him this spot was no good, and we walked back to the truck. Never happened again. Steve, was that what I think it was, or did I happen across my first bear and not know it? I don't know what bears smell like, so I have been trying to tell myself that's what it was. I know it wasn't a deer or a goat. I smelled those my whole life. But I've been very concerned as to what happened across. Please help me, Steve. I just got to know what there was. I just got to know what that was or could have been. I never really believed. I kind of did, but never seriously. Now, though, I don't know. Thank you for the stories and hunting stories. Absolutely love the channel. Keep up the great work, Chris. Okay, Chris, first off, you know, everybody talks about bears being smelled. I can smell a bear. I've guided grizzly bears. I've guided black bears. I don't know how many times. I've never smelt a bear before I've seen it in my life. All right? Even bears that have been on top of a kill, meaning a pile of rotten moose rotting away while they eat it, whatever. I've never smelt a bear in my life before seeing it or not knowing it wasn't there. Never. Okay? Obviously, everything has a scent once you get your hands on it. Cougars are actually quite stinky. Wolves are very smelly. But as well, I've never smelt the scent of a wolf's body ever before in my lifetime without seeing it. All right, so there's the answer to the scent part. Wild hogs, I've shot wild hogs in Texas. I've shot them in, I don't know how many southern states. I've shot them from helicopters in Texas. I've had my hands on numerous wild hogs, and I've never smelt them. Obviously you smell where they are, where they're rooting around and stuff, where they've been pissing and crapping all over the place, but you don't smell those animals. Humans don't smell them where their nose is strong and obvious as they're just walking by without us knowing. We just don't, all right? So, as far as the warning you had in your head, I guess you probably weren't listening to all the other people on this channel enough by now to know that that has happened to, I don't know how many people now. Who would guess? Hundreds, thousands, right? It's being reported from all over the frickin' planet. Okay, man? So, happened to you, you didn't ask for it. Basically part of the club of no return now, aren't you? But good for you on keeping your child safe and going with those warnings no matter where they came from, right? If it doesn't feel right, you leave, especially when you got children. You leave. You go with your intuition, your sixth sense, just like you did, and you win, right? So thanks for sending that in, man. Appreciate it. That fish is still sitting there in the same spot. Well, basically in the same spot. Taunting me. Getting soggy. Might have to move back to the shop here pretty quick. Non-encounter, just a thought about your question asked. Alright, I love answers. Or input. That's what we're here for. Hi Steve, there's a quick response to the question you asked from your video titled New Search and Rescue Shares Sasquatch Experience. You asked a question about what, why, how people are so conditioned to react to certain triggers about a certain subject. I'm not an expert in any way or means, but the thought that immediately comes to my mind is that they are conditioned by the input they take into their system. For example, how many people read the news often, watch television, and especially the news, and or use social media so much that it is a daily routine, often done so much that it becomes a background noise or a thoughtless thing that they skim over, etc., without realizing what they have done they have just logged countless mind-numbing things into their brains, and it is stored there. People have become so inundated with information that maybe some of what is stored in their mind has been laced with a trigger button, meant to cause a reaction. So much of what is out there is planned and most definitely controlled and meant to lead people like mindless sheep into a certain direction and to help cause certain mindsets. I believe people have been led worldwide to become exactly whatever those behind the dark curtains want them to be. What if inside all the mass garbage dump of information, perhaps there have been subliminal traps laid out, both audio and visual, that help ensnare the weak-minded, or perhaps those minds that have been so desensitized that they are the perfect ground to lay these traps. Perhaps after repeatedly putting these traps out there, there are enough people amongst the millions that have been poisoned with information overload. The people have become bombs that go off angrily and react when they hear the triggers. And instead of a conversation, you have contention, which also helps divide the people further. You ask for a view from a different perspective, and I feel that this might at least generate some thoughts for you and whom you wish to share this with. It is definitely making me think, especially after hearing your video. I don't care if you read this with others. I don't know if it'll help your roundtable knowledge, but perhaps it might help you. Thanks for what you do. Like many have said before me, I can tell you're a good man that is fighting a good fight. Keep it up as you're helping to grow the community of honest truth seekers and knowers. You can feel free to share my name, as I don't mind who hears this. Sincerely, Mark Asher in Missouri. Mark, absolutely appreciate your input, and that's what we're after, all right, man? And I think you probably hit the nail on the head more than a few times in that share, for sure. I mean, like I said before, there's a recipe out there. There's a recipe out there to train, manipulate humans, just like there's a full recipe that all the trainers use on horses and dogs, lions, whatever, right? There's a recipe out there. And the latest recipe seems to be this. Isn't it amazing? It's just like, as an example, like Instagram. You can't get anything more useless as something like Instagram, right? Photographs. All it is photographs, maybe the odd video, and people are just going like this. What if they even remember what the 5th to last photo is they looked at, or the 10th, or the dozenth? You do know what I mean? It's just mindless. It's mindless. Bang, 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 working that thumb on the screen. It's amazing to watch. But these little devils right here have got you. They've got us. They've got the human beings. Got them. These little units right here. Very, very effective, deadly little tools when controlled by the wrong people, which I am firmly believing that the wrong people control this shit, right? That's why myself and many other people are offering up, encouraging people to think for themselves and break free. Although, yes, these are great tools to do what we're doing as well, right? Great tools for all of us to get together and communicate. But unfortunately, once we start communicating too smoothly and on a vast crowd, a large crowd, then we get the attention of the keepers, and then we get suppressed, booted off, censored, and put away, right? And another thing too, I want to make a mention that somewhat fits into this in a way. You got to wonder, you know, there was a very popular guy, Joe Rogan, with millions of followers. He had Les Stroud on a show calling him his friend, right? Talked about this topic, and then later on, absolutely threw his so-called friend under the bus. Just like that. I'll have to take this up in a bit. Somebody sure. Instead of change it up. Instead of change up the spot for a second there, a bunch of kids came down the river. It makes it kind of tough for video and for me. There's a handful of people standing there looking at me. But anyway, like I was saying, touched on the fact, one thing I'm curious about, maybe some of you might have something to add into it. As an example, like I was saying earlier, take from it like a guy like Joe Rogan. He has literally millions of people. What is it, the most popular podcast in the world, right? That's a lot of attention, right? That's a lot of people who he can speak to, right? And do you remember back he had Les Stroud on a show? I think he's had Les Stroud on a show a couple times and referred to him as, quote, his friend, end quote. Had him on a show, spoke with him, treated him with respect, and later on, soon after, on the same show, publicly, He trashed the living shit out of Les Stroud, threw him under the bus, to the point he even added in, yeah, I just feel sorry for him. It makes me sad. It makes me sad. I feel sorry for him. Because he was speaking openly about this topic, which we talk about openly, which has happened to tens of thousands of people. For me, you know, I used to follow his show fairly often. I thought it was pretty good. He talked to a lot of intelligent people, but as soon as he did that, for me, he annihilated his character for me, and I'm done. Done. Out of here, off the team. I don't have any time for people like that. Like I said a couple videos back, you have got to be solid. You need to be the solid backup for everyone in the community, in your community, in the world. Be solid. Not like that. So I'm out. But what I'm wondering is, the point I'm trying to get to is, what do you think? When you get to have an audience that vast in the world today, do you think that possibly the dirty, filthy, evil bastards power at B take you aside and have a talking to you? What do you think? Because I think there's a strong possibility that happens. I have a strong feeling that once you surpass a certain threshold when it comes to numbers that you can speak to publicly online, or even on mainstream news, whatever, on the news channels, television, I have a funny feeling you get a talking to, and you get taken aside, and you get told flat out what you can or can't talk about if you want to stay on here and make gazillions of dollars. Alright? What do you guys think? And obviously, you know, as far as that one particular person, Joe Rogan, goes, obviously he's in for it for the money big time. I mean, who the hell makes $100 million and then insists on reading dozens and dozens of sponsors at the beginning of each podcast to get that extra cash? What? Are you serious? That just freaks me out. But it's a solid indicator in your face that this individual is all about the money, right? When you're already worth $100 million and you're still trying to get those sponsorships into your podcast to make that extra $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000, something's off up here a little bit, as far as I'm concerned. I get a dozen offers a week of people wanting to, what do they say, partner up and promote the product on the YouTube channel and more. And I don't even reply to them. I just keep getting on. I mean, I can do whatever I want basically, and the bills are paid, and I don't need to have hundreds of millions of dollars. I'll guarantee you that one. But it just finds it odd that people do that to me. But anyways, that's what I'm wondering. What do you guys think? Once you get this certain level of audience, do you get a talking to ensure that you can stay on and have that audience? I think it's true. Or there's another possibility as well, if that isn't true. Another possibility, I feel I can read people very well. When you've been a professional guide in the middle of nowhere and you have every single personality you can come across, and you have got to be with that personality, that person, for up to 3 weeks at a time, one-on-one, in the middle of nowhere, you get to know people, you get to learn a lot about people, and you learn how to read people. Because very few people tell you the honest truth of how they're feeling. Very few people are secure enough to just blurt out their views on life or different topics. And you almost have to sometimes you got to read between the lines of who you're really dealing with here, you know. But I'm starting to go to a bit of a tangent. What I'm getting at is the money thing. I don't know how many times I've had gazillionaires with me, and I treat them just like they're the guy you went to school with. I don't give a shit who they are, what they got, trust me. And they get it right away. It usually takes about 3 days for a stranger to finally relax and open up, and when they realize I'm zero threat, I don't give a shit who they are or what they have, and then they finally relax and they open up. And after a couple weeks, I love to ask them all the question. I always ask them, I go, hey man, what's your number? I mean, how much money would it take for you to quit seeking money, more money? Like if I had $5 or $10 million in the bank, you wouldn't see me wasting time of life to make more money. Why do you keep wanting to make more money? And you guys wouldn't believe how many of those individuals replied with, what? It's never enough. Are you nuts? I'll bet you 7 out of 10 people have that reply. Well, abnormal, isn't it? So I'm getting off topic. What I was going to get about with Joe Rogan is possibly that this topic scares the shit out of him. and he doesn't even want to tackle it. He does not want to know any more about it. He doesn't want to accept the fact that this is really going on out there. And I think that's a strong possibility because Joe Rogan, he goes hunting, he likes going elk hunting, he gets an elk every year, but in my world, he's considered a shooter because he's probably never gone in the woods by himself for one day in his entire life. He has never gone in the woods to go pre-scout his game animal ever before in his entire life. Not a chance. I bet the whole farm on that one, right? I've also heard him when he's spoken about bears, and I've heard him speak about wolves. They scare the shit out of him. And I don't know why, but getting back to reading people, I can tell when people are scared of the natural predators. I can tell when people are scared to be out in the middle of nowhere because I've had dozens and dozens of them with me out there, okay? And a lot of them have the same personality traits as a guy like Joe Rogan and other celebrities you guys know of. And I already know, I can tell by what he said, he is scared out there. And you're not going to see him out there by himself sleeping overnight, going hunting for himself. You're not going to see it happen. So knowing that, I wonder if this topic possibly scares the living shit out of him, scares the shit out of him enough that he just throws the so-called friend under the bus and absolutely trashes his personality to the world online. Shitty thing to do. Anyway, that's a bit of a babble. We should get some more shares going here, and I'm going to get home and get out of this rain. And maybe we'll do some more shares in the shop tonight before the evening's over. It's getting soggy. Raining. Alright, what do we got? Mark it red. Perhaps a missing puzzle piece? The reason why most media is false? Hello, Steve. I felt compelled to send you this email regarding your mistrust of most things media related. The U.S. Information and Educational Exchange Act of 1948, known as the Smith-Mundt Act, basically allowed the State Department to use information such as propaganda, public diplomacy information, in foreign countries. It was amended in 2012 by President Obama to now include the U.S. and its citizens. Isn't that sweet of him? This includes everything that produces information such as books, TV, movies, internet, social media, and more. Even instructors, which I take to mean teachers and professors, are mentioned. Links below. The act was developed to regulate broadcasting of programs for foreign audiences produced under the guidance by the State Department and prohibited domestic dissemination of materials produced by such programs as one of its provisions. The original version of the act was amended by the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act 2012, which allowed for the materials produced by the State Department and the Broadcasting Board of Governors, BBG, to be disseminated, widely spread within the United States. I haven't had a TV since 2012 because I thought it was crap long before I found out about this information. No, I don't believe a damn word. For me, it was a huge revelation learning about this. After doing a little research and paying attention, I realized that most everything we're taught to believe is wrong. As a registered nurse for 24 years, most spent working in intensive care units, healthcare is dictated by big pharma, insurance companies, and the whack jobs at the CDC and WHO. The bottom line is money and not the patient. I'd say some doctors, but most nurses do have good intentions. Medicine is a whole other dark story. I've never seen a Sabe, but I'm a believer and love your channel. Take great care and be safe out there, Mary Jane. Mary, thank you so much for that email and share. Absolutely appreciate it and agree with you 150% across the board. Big Pharma, North American medicine. A big joke, a big sad joke. Very, very sad. Like I said, I encourage y'all, you get out there, get away from this Western society, eat for a day or a couple days, ground yourself, put your bare feet in that dirt, eat some healthy food, rely on your natural given senses. Oh boy, I'm about to go on a bit of a rant. I'm going to cut myself off there, but I'll tell you what, if you can make yourself stay away from sugar as much as you can, possibly harvest your own table fare, whether it be fish, game, vegetables, drink water when you're thirsty. And watch the difference between your ears alone. Just the difference between your ears, as in thinking and seeing, will be quite the eye-opener for all of you. Try it if you can, right? Become healthy. BFRO and Associates. Hi, Steve. I want to thank you for the efforts on behalf of those of us having issues with this creature. My lifelong friend passed away only a few years back. In his last will and testament, he left me his personal journal. The journal details day-to-day interaction with these creatures on his grandparents' farm. I personally spent time on their farm in southeastern Tennessee. The two have experienced these creatures on their farm. They are indeed people, not apes, as the mainstream would have us believe. My late friend Mike's grandma was full-blooded Cherokee Indian. She referred to them as forest brothers. Their farm has been in their family for more than 200 years. I had the pleasure to spend my summers from school on this farm. Mike's grandparents became my quasi-grandparents. A couple of years ago, I began to post on Facebook and Instagram daily pages for Mike's journal. I would occasionally throw in my own experiences on the farm. Immediately, I was attacked by a couple of high-profile experts claiming Mike's journal was bullshit, two of which have popular YouTube channels. As a result of these attacks, I look down on all social media related to this. I appreciate what you, Scott Carpenter, and David Plydis are doing in regards to the subject. We are being lied to. Feel free to use my name, Nick Fisher. Nick, it's unfortunate, but you know what? The less attention and energy you give those pricks, the less power and influence they have, and they eventually just disappear. Okay? Let them go. Just kick them to the curb and let them go. Bottom feeders. Now they're being exposed to what they are quite easily. They do it themselves. Nobody's doing anything to them. Everything that's happened to all these people of the past, was brought on by their own doing. You cannot continue to lie to, manipulate, and try to control people without it caving in on top of you eventually. You can't. It's not possible. Good always wins over evil. It does. It's true. But anyway, I'm getting soaked. I gotta go. Next one of these we're gonna do in the shop. Maybe we'll find some different lighting, get rid of that buzz in the shop. I don't know how we're gonna get rid of the echo. Somebody will have some input, for sure. Talk shortly.